I looked up in the sky and I thought, one day I'll be a soldier, then I'll be a missionary.
Why a soldier?
I always wanted to be a soldier. It was something that I believe was inside me. The sound of the guns, I always ran to them. It's what I was made to do.
Don't be afraid to suffer. Don't think that being Christians means you're not going to suffer.
What are we doing with kids in a conflict zone? Is this the right thing for them?
We're in this completely together. They help this work be more loving. They help this work penetrate deeper.
What do we have to offer? Peace may come. How do you arm a kid for peace, actually?
And this war has not stopped. Over 1 million people are internally displaced, and many more millions have fled.
Connected to freedom is justice. But the only way you're going to get true freedom and justice is with love. We don't want to be against the government. But when a government oppresses its own people, we have to stand against it. Not because we're better, because that's just wrong. I want to be free. We all want to be free. Every human wants to be free.
Why am I not afraid? Because I love these people. When you really love someone, fear is no longer a big priority. You're with us. It means God hasn't forgotten us. The world can know. We count. I came to the edge of the tank, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. You guys give me cover, I'm going to run. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to live through this. It wasn't fatalistic. It was just kind of logical. You're not going to make it on this one. But damn, that kid's still there. I got to do something. And I just felt it's now or never.
Each of us have unique God-given gifts. How we use them is up to us. We can practice them and hone them into something very powerful, achieving amazing deeds. Or what may be one of life's greatest tragedies, we can squander the opportunity and allow our gifts to atrophy and wither.
We lived out in the country, in what's now a developed area of Thailand, near Kanchanaburi, not far from the bridge of the River Kwai. And it was a great life. I grew up riding horses. I had my 22 boys rifle, a little single shot thing.
Sure.
And I remember I was behind my parents' house, which is out in a rural area. I looked up in the sky and I thought, one day I'll be a soldier, then I'll be a missionary. I don't know what, I was 5 years old. And my dad was my hero. He was a soldier, fought in the Korean War. And then he said, sometimes you have to go fight with a weapon. But after the Korean War, I decided if I ever went back, it's going to be with the Bible. And that war can solve some temporary problems that are necessary to solve, but it never solves eternal problems. Until we can learn to love each other, you'll never solve the ultimate problem. So later I thought, was that just honoring my dad and trying to be like him? Maybe. But I thought it was something deeper. It's like, you're going to be a soldier, then a missionary.
Why a soldier?
Maybe like you. I love the action. I always wanted to be a soldier. The sound of the guns, I always ran to them. It was something that I believe was inside me. It's what I was made to do. And I decided I'm gonna be a Marine, because they're the best. And they're the toughest, meanest, and definitely have the coolest uniform. So when I applied for scholarships, I applied for a Navy, ROTC,
Sure.
which is how I'd be a Marine, and Army, and I got both. But at the final decision, why did I choose Army over Marine Corps, was I wanted to be in Special Forces, ultimately.
Sua Sponte, the Rangers slogan. De oppresso liber, the Special Forces. So they were burned into your heart.
Yes, sua sponte means of their own accord. That means even if you're the only guy there, go do it until you're dead. Of their own accord, it means battalion commander may not be there anymore. You may be the acting battalion commander, go. And then de oppresso liber, free the oppressed, is from Isaiah, and then Jesus quotes it again in Luke chapter 4, verse 18 and 19. I came here to free the oppressed. I've always loved that because I want to be free. We all want to be free. Every human wants to be free. And so that was burned inside me. So I loved all of my experience in the Army. I didn't love every part of it, the bureaucracy and the zillion rules, but I loved the action, I loved the people I was with.
What role did Karen play in your transition from being a soldier to being a soldier for Christ?
A huge role. But before I met her, I was already deciding to leave the Army. When I first met Karen at church, after church, she said, well, what do you do? I said, I'm in the Army, Special Forces. She goes, what's that?
Tell me how impressed you were the fact that Dave was a Special Forces officer, Green Beret, paratrooper, Ranger. Pretty impressive, huh?
I didn't know anything. It was terrible. I hadn't met anybody in the Army before.
I just had missed the Gulf War. I was in 1st Special Forces Group, and the first Gulf War ended too quickly for us to be part of. I was in Asia, And she goes, were you in the Gulf War? I said, no, I was too scared. She goes, well, that's okay. I said, no, man, we were dying. It's like not getting to the playoffs, you know?
I can't remember at which point he burst out laughing and just realized, I gotta set this girl straight.
So I asked her out right away, and she's like, no. Military people, this. She's like, but I was persistent, and finally she was willing to go climbing with me, and we climbed Mount Shuckson in Washington State. It's a technical climb. And I thought, well, she'll make it to base camp, and that's good enough. She's never climbed. We're going up the steepest part. I guided for the Rangers in SF climbing. So you get that feeling when you know people are about getting a little bit scared or you need to say something. So I'm at one of the harder parts, and I got my ice axe up here, and I'm looking down at her. How you doing? Trying to calm her. She says this big natural smile. I'm digging it. I said, who says that? Your first climb, man, I'm scared. So we get to the top, come down. I said, Lord, help me, let me marry her. I'll do anything.
Was it really an iffy thing for you about whether this was the right guy?
In some ways, yes, in some ways, no. I felt I connected with him on a spiritual level in an amazing way. He was the strongest man of God I'd ever known. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to keep up. Wasn't sure if I would be able to do what he was going to do, and I didn't exactly even know what that was.
While Dave Eubank was trying to convince Karen to marry him, he received a phone call from Thailand. It was his dad, who was meeting with the foreign minister of the Wa tribe of Burma. The minister had seen a photo of Dave in his uniform, and he asked Dave to come to Thailand to train his people. When your dad called you to come to Burma, she was with you.
I'd already asked her to marry me once that day. It was like, she said, Dave, we're not even dating. No. Very nicely, but no. And she said, well, I'm going to Burma. I wish you'd come with me, but I understand you don't have to go. God's got to lead you. I love you. Bye. And she goes, well, aren't you gonna take me down to California to see my parents on spring break? We're leaving tomorrow. I said, you still wanna go with me? Oh yeah. So we drive down to California, and we're sitting on the sands, and the moon comes up, and it's full, and it's got a ring around it, and it's just bright as anything. She's saying, well, Dave, I don't want you to go to Burma without me. I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, I don't want that. And I said, I know what you don't want. What do you want? Do you wanna marry me? It's the fourth time. She goes, okay. Just like it was a used car deal, Except I was a used car. But I knew it was real. So the next morning we went to Lover's Point, right there at Carmel, and I said, you don't have to do this, because I don't know what happened last night. You said that, but, she says, no, I'm in. I'm in it. So we got married in Malibu on the beach, and then went to Burma together.
And then the two of us on our first mission trip, which was our honeymoon, we only had each other to talk to. There was nobody else that spoke English, really. I had no concept of missions. I was gonna be a special ed teacher. What am I gonna do there? And he said, people just wanna see if you live your life any differently as a Christian. Do you treat your family differently? Do you treat your kids differently? How do you handle issues? So I thought, okay, well, I could try that. I could just try to live as a Christian, but I still didn't know, of course, the big picture.
Burma doesn't even show up on a map anymore. So the folks that are watching us, talk to them about the Burma you know.
Burma, which is now called Myanmar by some countries and some people, it was an old kingdom. But before the kingdom of Burmans were there were other ethnic minorities. The Mon, the Kachin, the Shan were there first. Later on, the Burman people came from what's now India and Tibet, that area, and came down, and they were more populist, more organized, and more aggressive, and the Burman kings started to take over. There was constant battle and enslavement between the Burmans and the ethnic minorities. The British came and bumped into the Burmans. The Burmese thought there was no greater empire than them. They picked a fight with the British and lost. Burma became a colony of England after India was. World War II comes around, the Japanese invade, and the Burmans joined the Japanese, but the ethnics joined the Allies. The Kachin Rangers, the Karen Resistance, all these fought on our side against the Japanese. There was a tacit understanding, when the Japanese are defeated, you will have some kind of autonomy or rights within Burma. But when World War II was over, people just walked away from it. So very quickly, in 1949, the Burman military, which is pretty much becoming a dictatorship, began to attack the ethnic people, saying, hey, you all belong to us. There was a bloody massacre on Christmas Eve on 1948, 1949 against the Karen, and that precipitated what's now the longest running war in the world right now, 69 years of fighting in Burma to now. The Burma Army is one of the world's worst perpetrators of human rights abuses right now. The Burma Army will go into an area, attack it, burn a village, and then lay landmines all around so that even if you come back, you get blown up trying to come back to your fields. I've talked to many rape victims. I found people murdered, kids murdered, villages burned. We've been shot at many times as we try to give assistance. Nothing's been really done to stop them.
In Europe, when that kind of thing was happening in former Yugoslavia, it was called ethnic cleansing.
Right.
You don't hear that term being used over there.
It's definitely ethnic cleansing. You know, I wouldn't call it genocide because they don't really want to kill all the ethnics. They want to dominate and use them.
Right.
They want to be in complete control. And the Burma Army, you know, we pray for them. We don't want to be against them. We don't want to be against the government. We want to be for people. But when a government oppresses its own people, we have to stand against it. Not because we're better, because that's just wrong.
And this war has not stopped. Over 1 million people are internally displaced, and many more millions have fled to India, Bangladesh, Thailand, some even to China. In 1993, my wife, Karen, and I, we just got married in Malibu, and we were invited to go up to help the Wa people of Burma. And as we moved along the border, we ran into major offensives the Burma Army were conducting against the ethnic people, specifically the Kren, the Kreni, and the Shan. And I remember people fleeing, and I thought, I got to do something, and prayed, God, what can I do? And I thought, well, I can help one person. I'll be glad, they'll be glad. Maybe that's all I can do.
We started helping people, and after a few months of doing this, other ethnic people started to join us, and pretty soon we had 5 to 20 people, depending on the mission, men and women who were part of our team going into areas under attack to help people in Burma. That was the beginning of FBR. After a couple years, the ethnic resistance leadership said, oh, we like you guys. Can you make more? So slowly we grew till now we have 70 to 80, depends on the year, relief teams active. These are 5-person teams in all the major conflict areas of Burma.
I was a Ranger and Special Forces officer, and those units attract highly motivated, dedicated, tough people, and not difficult to train. Going into Burma with ethnic people, many of whom didn't even have a 2nd grade education, but they're also highly motivated, also dedicated, tough as nails, and actually know more about the jungle than I do. They can do anything. And so training them has really been a matter of taking some skills that they hadn't been familiar with, whether it's advanced medicine, navigation with compasses, or using a GPS, or reporting, or videography, and giving them those skills to help integrate into the skills they already had to better help people and get the news out.
The different ethnic groups, they're very similar as the Native Americans here. They had their own areas. They had no concept of a country, of a government larger than their tribe. And so when the Burma Army began to attack and control, there never has been much of a real united front, because it's not really in their culture or their history to do that. It's very difficult to unite people who have always been separated. That's been something that we have not been able to do on a large level, but only on a small level in our camp. That's but the only real unity I know is among the teams working together. They learn to love each other and care about each other. And so on a very small scale, we have unity among our teams. And other people in Burma have found that too. When you come to a common purpose, you're gonna work on a clinic, you're gonna do this with these different tribes. We need each other, and some people are better at this, some people are better at that, and together you have more.
How many will you graduate each year?
80 to 100 a year.
And how long will they stay with the Rangers?
We'd like them to stay 4 years, but we don't control that. And they go on to being a school teacher, or go in the Army, or be a pastor, or go back to their farm. It's like a volunteer fire department.
The Burma Rangers, our job is to give help, hope, and love, and get the news out. Our job is not to attack anyone. At the same time, we're not pacifists. It's up to each individual Ranger to decide how they're going to respond when the enemy comes.
Anybody can join the Burma Rangers as long as you subscribe to 3 things. Or you can read and write, that's 1. Do this for love, because the teams aren't paid. And number 3, you can't run if people can't run. So you gotta be the last person out. If you're willing to do that, doesn't matter what your religion is.
As I began to work with the Kren and other tribes, but particularly the Kren at first, they really loved us and loved me. And we're so grateful I was there, even when I ran out of things to give them. Hey, you're with us. You know, it means God hasn't forgotten us. The world can know. We count.
As Dave and I began having a family, we did decide, what are we doing with kids in a conflict zone? Yeah. Is this the right thing for them? And for him, it was just natural, but I really had to make sure I knew why I was doing that. And I think it was hardest at night when I would go to bed wondering what is gonna happen, and wishing I could just wrap my kids kind of in bubble wrap. I said, Lord, could I just insulate them from all of this? And I felt him speak back and say, yes, and you could effectively insulate them from me too. You know this is the right place to be. You came here with all the right reasons. Now that things could be out of control, it's my time to talk to them.
We live in the jungle, so we have no plumbing, no Wi-Fi. We have waterfalls, horses. We eat snakes for breakfast and ride our horses everywhere. Well, we've always looked at our family as the Incredibles family. That was our favorite movie growing up.
While FBR trained people, Karen was moved to create a program for the mothers and children in the many displaced communities throughout Burma. She called it the Good Life Club and designed it to teach God's word and restore as much peace and love to a place where violence had become the new normal.
We're focused on what is our purpose here, to love kids in the war zone. And so when it's time to do a kids program, we go, and definitely the hardest thing in the world is to not know the outcome. What else are you supposed to do? You're never guaranteed another day. You're not guaranteed another breath. God gives you enough breath as he wants you to have. He makes your heart pump for as long as he wants you to do it. And what else are you supposed to pursue but the eternal things? And so when God's put a vision in front of you, I couldn't live with myself or look God in the eye if I didn't say, I believe we're supposed to walk this way. Yes, let's go do this kids program in a place that's sort of potentially under attack. And there was a place that got attacked.
Yeah.
And yet the more we were there with those kids and you could hear the gunfire and the mortars coming closer, it was like, yes, we are here with these kids because we're not doing it by ourselves. We're there because these families are under attack. It makes you more and more connected to that vision of, yes, this is why we're here, because those kids are under the same and even greater risk than we are. They live it. If we get out, but they're still there.
You sometimes feel afraid.
Yes, but we choose to love, choose to understand that God loves us and he has a plan for us and that we're helping people. And in the end, that's what matters.
We're in this completely together. And they help this work be more loving. They help this work penetrate deeper. They help us to connect our family that's American with a family that's Iraqi, with Syria, with Burmese, with Sudanese. All these things we do together that are of love are eternal.
Back in battalion, they sing the song, and everybody sings along. The story of the infantry. Queen of battle, follow me. The mortars and artillery are crashing down around me. But deep in my heart, I have no fear. For I know my God is near. The life of a ranger, the life for me. For nothing in this world is free.